Good evening, Fins Nation UK. How is everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's doing good. Football is right around the corner. I know it's been a few weeks since we've done one of these, so I thought we would get the ball rolling ahead of the new season and look to get things back up and running. Obviously, we've got training camp starting this week. We've got a few bits and bobs to talk about from the off season, and we'll also get rolling with some good chat and discussion. As always, please like and subscribe on the page. Get the base up. Tell everybody you know. Hope everybody's enjoying watching us kind of just basically talk rubbish about the Dolphins for an hour and a half, or however long we seem to go on for. I'm a little bit under the weather tonight. I'm a little bit nasally and everything else like that. I've got a bit of a sore throat and a dreaded summer cold. So I'm going to let most of the guys do most of the talking for me. But without further ado, let's get the guys into the studio. And we will crack on. So first of all, we've got Nick joining us again. How are you doing, Nick?
Very good, sir. Very good.
Jolly good. Also with us tonight, we've got Rob. Welcome along, Rob.
All right, guys. It's that far away. It's almost here.
So and finally, welcome along, Keith. How are we doing from across the onto the Emerald Isle? How are you?
Not too bad at all, Mark, and welcome Nick and Rob. It's as Nick said, not too close away. Tomorrow, start the training camp. So it's the season is
I think we're already
kicking off.
The World Cup's been a nice distraction, but let's face it, for most of us, I think it's the hors d'oeuvre ahead of the new season. The new season starting. I think we've all been kind of waiting and ready for the season to start for a little while now, especially because of, and one of the things we want to kind of we'll kick off with, all of the off-season changes that we've had. We're all excited to see the new regime kick things into place and see what we're gonna end up with. Obviously, we've seen changes in the front office with John Eric Sullivan coming in from the Packers. Also bringing in his coach from the Packers as head coach, Jeff Hafley, and obviously a plethora of coaching changes on the offensive and defensive side. But we're still a smattering of the old guard from the last couple of years still in there, which may help with continuity. And then, of course, the big free agency acquisition, which was obviously Malik Willis, so a new quarterback in town. I think everybody's kind of glad to see the back of Tua. Maybe we'll get onto that in a moment. So it's been a big season of a big sort of period of change in the off season for us. Lots of things to, I feel, look forward to for the new season. I'm quite excited. I know it's difficult with our record dead cap space that we've got and everything else like that. But hey, it's nice to have a record for something for a change in Miami. So we've obviously got that to look forward to. And the exciting thing is we've got a season to kind of bed these guys in, see how we do, potentially look at young players or these prove it players. And then next summer we're going to have one of the highest free cap in the league for free agency. The year after, same again. So, guys, the rebuild is on. How are we all feeling? If we go around, start with you, Nick. How are we all feeling ahead of training camp and what's happened in the off season?
I mean, obviously, looking forward to the season, looking forward to training camp. Seeing particularly what the rookies look like. Probably not really looking forward for the season in any anticipation of us being good or great or playoff contenders or anything like that. But it is this thing of it should be a resetting of the culture of the team from the things that we've been chatting about off air and with the news that's come out over the last 48 hours that, let's try and get this soft tag away from us. I don't think it will happen overnight. It's going to be a slow process. And I expect it's going to take a couple of seasons to really see where we go from that. But just obviously a bit like with a football season, an NFL season, soccer, whatever you want to call it. Just looking forward to actually seeing some pads on and players hitting each other and stuff like that.
So definitely, and yourself, Rob. I like your name that you've put against your user for the for coming in. The glass is half full. I like that. That's what I feel like we need to be. We need to be the glass is half full. I think as Dolphins fans, we've been probably glass is half empty for quite some time now. It's felt the glass has been probably pretty much empty for much of the time. So I like that glass is half full. How are you feeling?
It's strange, isn't it? Because we haven't really had any news, or not in comparison to previous seasons, where there was always all through the off season, oh, this person's come to the end of the 5th-year extension, or they're coming to the end of the contract, and it's panic stations to, oh, should we sign them, and what contract are they going to get, and how's it going to impact? And it's not happened. It's been dead.
Yeah,
it has been dead, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the only thing kind of like we've had really is the good news on the contract extensions.
Even those 3 contracts back when they were being interviewed at the combine, Hafley and Sullivan said, "Yeah, we want him, want him. They've done it, and it's difficult to sort of not go, wow, how amazing are these guys? Wow, they said they're going to sign Aaron Brewer. They said they're going to sign Achan. They said they're going to sign Jordan Brooks because they're like pillars of the team that they want to build on and improve on. And they've not done anything fantastic. They've just done the jobs. But that's not the experience that we've had over particularly the last 4 years, is it? It's been, Tyreek's house is burnt down and he's beat some guy up in a marina. So
kind of missed that, really. Kind of missed a little bit of drama. No, not really had any. There's been no drama. I mean, where's the drama?
Exactly.
Where's the?
I'm not sure whether I'm refreshed and that. So this is how a team and an organization runs itself properly, or it's like a bit confused. I don't really quite know what to make of it yet, but. It's the glass is half full because we don't know anything about what's going to happen. We we've got absolutely no idea. I mean, I've been trying to look down the season and it's win, loss, could be either way. And I've sort of gone from everything from a 4-win season to a 10-win season. It really could be absolutely anything, but it's definitely going to be interesting, exciting in a good way. And I just want some green shoots. There's it might not be for 2 years, 3 years. It may not be for 5 years. It may not even be with this head coach, but the foundation, something that's building and growing to an organisation that's not a soft joke. And I hate the guy. I cannot stand the guy that Colin Cowherd bought, the fake Gucci handbag analogy. That has been the Dolphins over the last 2 years, at least, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah, it feels a little bit. It may not be like a fake Gucci handbag. It might be like a. I'm trying to think of. It's probably a bit more like a Primark handbag at the moment. But at least it's a real Primark handbag. It's not a fake one. It's a real one. With the aim of going up to a Gucci handbag in a year or two.
Yeah. But that's where I'm at. My glass is half full because I don't think we can fall much further. So it can only get better.
That's true.
And I do think we will surprise a few teams. We will. There'll be some games that we absolutely should not win, and we will win them. And there'll be other ones that should be a shoo-in. And it just won't work out because we've got that many players that are finding their feet, that many rookies.
Also kind of the Dolphins way. How about yourself, Keith? How are you feeling?
Yeah, if you were to ask me at the start of the season, I would have been down in the dumps, say January, February, just looking forward to saying what the hell is going to happen here, But once they hired Hafley and Sully, and I suppose then listening to them, what their plans were, at the back of my head, then it was a case of, right, let's see them walk the walk and talk the talk, They made a few, statements, as Rob said, and Nick said, they had pillars, they were going to get them. That's ticked off the list. They couldn't do anything with the salary cap. They took the hit. A lot of people were surprised they'd do that. But they've stuck to their guns, and that's what I like about the front office as it currently stands. Well, currently of what they've said, they've done what they said. There has been no surprises. Rob said, there's no surprises, and even then you're talking about, say, the coaching staff. You mentioned it yourself, Mark, the turnover in coaching staff, but they've kept the best, coaches in the previous seasons, Slowick for the offense, Clark and Barry for the defense, so I mean, they can work with those, but even the coaches that he's brought on, it's not the case they're all rookies, a lot of these coaches are coming from other clubs. You had what's the running back Betts is coming from Buffalo from last season, or from New York last season. You have the Buffalo Bills cornerback coach. It's not as if there's no NFL experience there. But the one thing I did notice, even when he was selecting these coaches, was in an interview we had with Sherman. He's got coaches that will have his back, and he made a quite statement, that there is going to be adversity over the season. And he has full confidence in the coaching staff that he has, that they'll get through this adversity together. And that's what I'd like to see, because if you have coaches that are going, have that mentality, then that feeds into the players, and especially the young players, what I mean? So I'm more positive than I was 6 months ago. But again, I'm optimistic, what I mean? As Rob said, we're starting from the bottom. Can't get any worse. My head is saying 7 to 10 wins. My heart is really saying about 3 to 5 wins. That's the way I see it at the moment. But again, it can't be surprised. All I want to see them do is be competitive in every game. Give it their all in every game. And as Rob said, win some, lose some, build for next year.
I think that's the thing for me, is kind of what you want to see them be competitive. You want to see them in most of the games, not being blown out. Producing flashes or producing, things that you can start to hang your hat on as the season goes on, and those sorts of things. And interesting what you said there about the coaches that he's brought in. I mean, there's some, Kevin Patullo I find is an interesting one, because by all accounts, from some of my Eagles supporting friends, they were kind of, you're going to be well away with him. He's useless and this, that, and the other. But I think, is he though? Because you've got Super Bowls and you've done really well offensively, and you've got the type of quarterback that hopefully we're going to perhaps make Willis into, and those sorts of things. And you just kind of look at it and think, there's some sour grapes and things like that with certain people. People said the same thing about Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio came, and I think we'd all agree that it probably wasn't the right place or the right time, but the quality of him as a coach is probably a little bit undeniable. But and they, like you said, they've retained the ones, Butch Berry and Austin Clark, and people. When you watch the American guys talk about the team that go and they see the coaches or they talk to the coaches, the general consensus seems to be they have definitely kept the ones that they all seem to have a good opinion of as well, that seem to have had an impact with the players over the past few years, and those sorts of things. And I think that's really good. And again, culture is something that we've obviously kind of touched on. And you've got coaches that are going to instill this new culture in that. We're going to hopefully get away from some of the stuff that we've heard over the last couple of days about the players and over the last couple of years, and where they've been and the things they've been doing and everything else like that. You can't see some of that happening under the new regime. Or you hope it's not going to happen under the new regime. And so I think same as you guys. I think it's a positive outlook. And it kind of leads me on to the next thing nicely in terms of the national sort of predictions and how everybody seems to think that we're going to either massively tank and be getting the first pick in the draft next year, which, to be honest, I don't see it as being that bad. Or it's, I think the official over under from the Vegas bookmakers, as they say, is 4.5. Which, okay, you kind of think, okay, it's not a great season, but actually, with what we've got and the amount of, sort of 1 year contracts, the amount of prove it players that we've got, you can see that. But there's no doubts when you look at the players that they've signed on these 1-year contracts. Yes, they're prove-it contracts. Yes, they're prove-it deals. The majority of them are ex-first round, ex-second round picks. They're guys who had a pedigree coming out of college or have had a pedigree the first couple of years that they've been in the NFL, and for various reasons, injuries, etc., haven't quite done that. But there must have been at some point, there must have been a feeling of talent there for these guys, for them to be picked where they were. And so, if we can tap into that, I mean, Josh Uche, for example, that we picked up obviously on free agency, a couple of years ago, we had something ridiculous like 12.5 sacks with the Patriots. And you just think, if we've got the right coaches who can get the best out of those players, and because we've got nobody else, they've got to do that. They've got to get the best out of those players. There's not going to be any, right, well, we'll sit him for a couple of weeks because we'll let so-and-so play because, he's the veteran or he's more experienced. They're all a similar level, apart from when you look at the likes of Brewer and, Achan and, sort of Brooks, the rest of them are rookies or they're inexperienced or they're these couple of years players. Who knows if any of, if you got, let's say what they got, I think there's something like 15, 16 of the free agents that they signed in. If half of those end up being worthwhile signings, end up being decent starters, add that to the few foundational pieces we have got. We're quite pleased we did sign Achan again because I was able to get my Achan jersey. I'd had it in the basket for a little while, and I was like, I'm not getting it just yet.
Yeah.
So we can hopefully build on that. So I'm saying I'm mildly positive, and I say nationwide predictions seem to be sort of very much like 5 and below for in terms of wins, but I feel that's a bit harsh. We could, I think we could go anyway this season. It could be absolutely anyway.
See, I've done all of that with the 180 million dead cap as well.
I mean, I'm anticipating a 2019 year. I think we're going to start not necessarily getting blown out as we were back then, but I think we're going to have a better half of the better half of the season will be the second half of the season for us.
Was that the 1-9 start in 2019?
That was the 0-7.
0-7.
And then we went 5 and 4 for the last 9 games. Now that's the type of thing that I think that we're going to hopefully see. We're going to see that progression. We're going to see players learning. What was it? 13 draft picks, 11 rookie free agents. If half of those, if 12 of them end up on the 53, that's a lot of rookies. That's a lot of people learning everything. So that's, I would be happy with that. But I think, as other people have said, I just don't know what's going to happen. If someone told me today that we're going to lose that first game against Las Vegas by 30 or 40 points, I wouldn't be surprised. And if someone told me we're going to win it by 30 points, I would not be surprised. I just have not a clue. In reality, we just, there's so much of the team with question marks about it, and not just are they good, but who's actually going to be starting. There's just a lot of intangibles at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the big things that I'm waiting to find out is how many games we're going to get out of Austin Jackson.
Yeah.
Because, he has another season like last season, and who's fitting into that spot? There's there's so many questions with the rookies and the free agents, and we do seem to be talent thin.
Oh yeah,
in some places, and you're thinking, right, we're okay there. O-line's took a step forward, but all of a sudden Austin Jackson's put on pup for training camp.
There is a small part of me there with that, Rob, where with Austin Jackson, where I kind of, from what you hear about sort of some of the other players, that sort of DJ Campbell was obviously one of the later round rookies that we signed. If Austin Jackson was to go down, and okay, they say, that we were planning on starting Caden Proctor at left guard and obviously pairing him with Patrick Paul to make probably the biggest left side of an offensive line there's ever been. If we say, okay, well, actually, we're going to move Proctor to right tackle, we're going to have Paul on the other side, probably the biggest two outside tackles that there's been, and then, Campbell came in and played one of those guard positions. I think that would be interesting for me because by all accounts I've heard good things, but I also can't help but wonder how long someone like Savanier will be given. I didn't realize until the other day that his PFF grade last year was
the worst,
lowest in the league. 2 was the lowest grade ever given to a starting guard since they've been doing it. Which I was like, wow, I didn't realize he was that bad. But, but again, played him out of position on the right side. I don't understand. Same thing. I never understand this with soccer over here where we play people in the wrong positions and those sorts of things. It's just like you've got a player who you drafted because of how well he's played in a certain position. And then you think, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll bring him in. We'll go up this massive level from college to NFL. And what we'll do is we'll put him in a different position. Yeah. Like, give these guys a chance. But you're absolutely right. Like where that depth then becomes, I think you start in O-line. If you look at Paul, Proctor, Aaron Brewer, let's say Austin Jackson and Savanier or Campbell or whatever, you look at that, you think actually, 4 out of 5 are quality offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But after that, yeesh.
I mean, I've divided everybody up into lists. I've got like 22 that I think, they're definitely in, and then there's about another 17 that are almost definite, and then about 9 who are sort of 1 degree under them, and then about 10 that are sort of 50-50, could go either way. And Savanier is one of me ones who's not locked in, but he's on the next list down because he does need to. I know he was played out of position, but he needs to pull socks up. He's got to pull his socks up and perform. Now, there you go. You're on the side you used to, the side where you played in college. Show him what you got.
Yeah, just coming into Nick's point there, following the 1-19 season, I have my difficulties in agreeing with that, to be honest, because if you look at the second half of the season and the last 7 or 8 games we have, it's going to be very hard. I'd see us winning, we probably, even if we got the middle stretch, getting those games, and we were competitive, and we still got better, we were still, being competitive in those games. That's what I want to see. But to be honest, it all boils down to one player, and that's Malik Willis. You know what I mean? It's down to Malik Willis. Hopefully, giving Miami what Hafley and Sullivan think that he can, from their experience in Green Bay, and the biggest thing with Malik Willis, and you talk about weak positions, is connecting with reliable receivers, and you look at the wide receiver group that he has. If he can do anything with these wide receivers, he's a franchise quarterback in my books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's and that's the way I see it. Like you're talking about rankings. I think I had a look at a few of them, and at the highest I think we got in the rankings as regards power rankings was 29. Which was and the usual suspects around us like the Jets, the Cardinals, the Browns or whatever, you know what I mean? We're in that group. But I actually think we're in a better position than most of those other franchises. I know the Jets have drafted well and they've, they think they got the players, but I just think the management and the structures that are in place in Miami put us in a better position than those, you know what I mean?
They're the Jets, though, so they're bound to waste those players. I mean, let's be honest. They draft high. They draft high every year, but
there's few things in this world that are certain, and one of them is that the Jets suck.
Yeah, the weird thing is they always the players that they draft seem to be good players because they go elsewhere in the league and perform really well, and they sometimes perform really well at the Jets, but as a team, they're just atrocious. It is hilarious. It is. It really is, as you say. Yes, at least the Jets suck. We might not. We might not get the first pick of the draft next year, and it might well be the Jets.
Wayne doesn't mind me suggesting they're the Tottenham Hotspur of the NFL.
I think that was actually doing. I think that's being a little bit kind on the Jets to me.
So let's just say it's a good job there's no relegation in the NFL.
Yeah.
So and
that's the thing about it. Like with Malik, if Malik Willis plays well, and we're competitive, and we're top 4 or 5 picks in the draft or wherever you want to fall, it's definitely another dimension in relation to the draft haul we potentially take if there are, which there may be 2 or 3 quarterbacks that teams are after. Next year we don't have to rely on getting a quarterback, pick up a wide receiver, or pick up a good edge in 27, what I mean, and even better still, but again, it's all dependent. We can't say, and that's whatever we can't say how this is going to go.
No. It is set up from though, Keith, isn't it? Because if he can, like you say, if he can do something with this wide receiver core, then we've been down the road where we surround the quarterback with the best possible wide receivers and the best possible players available, and we've seen where that road went. So Malik Willis is your time to shine. You might not have good receivers at all, but you can raise the team by your play.
You were saying, Mark?
So I was going to say, do you guys feel talking about Willis? Obviously, I watched quite a few of the podcasts from the States, and there's obviously this real concern about he's had 6 starts last year or whatever, and there seems to be kind of a concern about durability because obviously he's a mobile quarterback, he's a runner, he's all that sort of stuff, which obviously we've not really seen in Miami for quite a while. I think probably Tannehill maybe was the last one that was relatively mobile, but even then I wouldn't have think anybody had really described him as a scrambler or a runner as a quarterback. So I'm excited to kind of see a different style of quarterback in Miami. But do you guys have any concerns? Obviously, you mentioned there, Keith, particularly about it. There's a lot on his shoulders this year, which of course there is. Do you have any concerns about durability, or that he's carrying the team, which he may well be required to do at times, and sort of take off regularly or sort of escape the pocket and those sorts of things, that durability might come into it, and then we're kind of going to be potentially left with Ewers, who I do actually quite like as a quarterback, but is a very, very different proposition as a quarterback than Willis. If we're going to be designing the plays really for this sort of mobile, is Achane going to get the ball? Is Willis going to get the ball? Are we actually going to throw it? If that happens, is that an area of concern that you guys hold as well?
I suppose, again, it boils down to, it comes back to the area we discussed earlier, the O-line, like protection and stuff like that. Achane, again, it depends how they're going to develop the schemes to play. Is Achane going to get the ball? We're going to be worried about durability of Achane. You have the tight ends. You've such as the passer. You have Chris Kamarick, the blocking tight end. But just even watching the games he played last year for Green Bay, he was able to pass when he needed to pass short, pass long, and run when he needs to run. And looking forward to that. But that could be the same. But I suppose the durability issues again arise because of his size. He's 6'6", He's not a Josh Allen 6'3", 6'4", type of QB, prototypical QB. But I just like what I see from him. But again, it's such a small sample size. And that's what a lot of the American commentators are saying. It's just a small sample size. But Hafley and Sully have seen him operate outside those matches as well, with a good Green Bay defense in practice. The defense is going to go, in training camps or practice sessions, whatever, they're going to play their best do what they need to do. And Hafley and Sully have seen that, and that's why they put their money where their mouth was, like, with regards to Willis, like, and hopefully that is the case. Like, I can't say whether that is, yeah or nay, but I'm comfortable with their decision based on what they've done so far in this 3 or 4 months they've been in there.
I think it'll depend on whether his automatic reaction is to run all the time, because that will, like similar to what Keith said, so far he's the small sample size he's shown. Yeah, he is a mobile quarterback. He can run, but if that's because he's becoming panicked, because the O-line's not giving him enough time, because the wide receivers aren't giving him the separation he needs, if the only thing he's doing, sort of, 75% of the time scrambling for his life, yeah, durability is going to be an issue. If you're getting hit 3 times out of 4 by people that are 2 and 3 times your size, you are going to get injured. But there's got to be a balance, hasn't there? Run, pass, scramble. There's got to be that flexibility, and he's got to be able to handle that. He's got to be able to not just say, "Oh, I've got to run every single time." He's got to be able to pick out the defensive coverage and what he thinks the defense is going to throw at him, which I believe from some of the interviews was something he was never. When he was at Carolina, he really, really struggled and he couldn't pick up on. But being at Green Bay, it's something that he has been taught and learnt how to do. So, yeah, if he panics because he's not been the starter and the pressure gets too much for him and he's just running around like a headless chicken all the time, yeah, he's going to get clobbered. But I don't think that'll happen. It might happen initially. It might be a bit of a first game of the season, bit of nerves, bit of jitters, but I think he'll settle into the role. He'll settle into the job, and he'll gain through training camp the trust in his O-line, especially when we start having these pre-season games. That's when we'll get more answers, I think, because training camp, great, pads are on, questions are going to start getting answered, but you get to those pre-season games, depending on how much the starters will play, that's when you get a real sort of taste of, right, I'm not just going up against my own D here. I'm going up against somebody that wants to put a marker down for the season. And that'll be when we get, 50, 60% of our answers to how is this team going to play out? How is this season going to go? What can they do?
See, my worry with Willis is not durability, because I think quarterbacks just get hurt. It's the NFL. Joe Burrow, one of the great current pocket passers, is hurt every season, it seems. At least 2 out of 3 anyway. Mahomes, scrambling quarterback, gets hurt. Probably the only one, the truly great quarterbacks that we have in the league right now in the Bills with Josh Allen. He's probably the only one that hasn't been hurt. But then again, he is a physical what is he? He's something like 6'6" and 240, and he just doesn't seem to get hurt. But by and large, you've got to expect your quarterback is going to get hurt. My worry with Willis is not the durability. My worry is he's going to be just good enough. He's going to be Tua. He's going to be Tannehill. What I want from this season, or should I say the 2 seasons, because it's a 3-year contract, but 2 of them are money guaranteed, and the 3rd year is a option.
Yeah.
I want him to be good. I want him to be great, or I want him to be awful. And I want us to ship him off and draft another quarterback. Obviously, as a fan, I want him to be good and I want him to be great, but I don't want him to be just good enough that we do that thing of, but if we get this person, if we get this wide receiver in, because we all
give
know
him another year. Give him another year.
Yeah, and also like they're incredible divas wide receivers in this league. You know, Hill, for as much as he was brilliant to watch in those first couple of seasons, I actually think he caused more issues than it was probably worth having him. So if you have to go and get a player like that in an attempt to make your quarterback great, is it really worth it?
Mm.
You want them to be able to do the job with the weapons that they have, and hopefully with the weapons that you draft. And I think that's one of the things that over the years that has really annoyed me is, for as much as I don't think Rio was great at drafting, he got a lot of draft picks correct. But what I think he was terrible at was re-signing talent. Re-signing talent. People like, what's his name? Van Ginkel. You know, we didn't even offer him a contract. You know, and I want to see. That's what I'd love to see from the new backroom staff. Is the new coach is just drafting well and re-signing some players.
I think that looking after your own is definitely been something that we haven't had under Greer. Greer definitely wasn't. He wasn't one for paying people after he signed them, which you wouldn't mind quite so much if you had any confidence in his draft picks, which I have probably a little less confidence in his drafting ability than you have there, Nick. But you know, I mean, he did hit on some, but I think the majority were. I think perhaps if you look at it in isolation with the players that he picked, there were some good picks.
Yes.
But if you look at it with a wider view on who else was available at the time when we made those picks, you kind of think, you know, we could have had Micah Parsons, we could have had Justin Jefferson, we could have had, you know, other people if things that have been done a different way. And that for me is more of the issue. It's not necessarily that he always picked bad players. It was that the players that he could have picked are players that now are absolute superstars. But, you know, that happens in soccer, it happens in the NFL all the time. It's not, you know, it's not an exclusive thing to Chris Greer. But one thing I agree with you totally on, this culture, again, talking about a change to the culture, of rewarding your own. Because for me, if you're a player like Patrick Paul, for example, Patrick Paul comes into his third season this year. He's going to be eligible for his contract extension at the end of the year, or his fifth year option, I think it is. No, his contract extension at the end of the year. You know, is he now going to be thinking, having seen us say, Aaron Brewer, you're a foundational piece, we're going to reward you. Devin Achane, you're a foundational piece, we're going to reward you. Jordan Brooks, you're a foundational piece, we're going to reward you, even though we've got other players of talent in that position in Jordan Brooks's case. You know, we're going to look after you and we're going to make sure that you get the deal that you deserve. Is that more of an incentive now for players like Patrick Paul or Chuck Robinson even, or those other players to say, well, actually, this contract year, I'm going to bust my ass because I know the Dolphins will actually look after me. They'll take care of me. They'll give me that contract that I want. I'm not going to have to go anywhere. I can stay. They're going to give me the contract because I'm going to put myself out for them and they'll put themselves out for me, which I think in previous years, players perhaps haven't really thought. So that final year, okay, they're playing for a contract perhaps elsewhere. But part of that is going to be, I'm not going to get myself injured. I'm not going to get myself taken out. I'm not going to get, because I know that come the end of the season, I'm going to want to be fit and healthy for, you know, in Wilkins' case, you know, for the Raiders to come in and take me, or for, you know, whoever it was going to be, and those sorts of things. So I'm like you. I was really glad to see that. Hopefully, is a culture change of drafting well, but rewarding your own and keeping your own.
Well, I think Javon Holland is someone that springs to mind, because great rookie year, injury, when he played was good in the second year, but injury hit. Third year was great. Fourth year, you could tell he played with a business mind. He played, I'm probably not going to get a contract with Miami. I'm going to make sure I'm I'm only playing when I'm 100% fit, and I'm not gonna risk injury. Like he was playing with a business head on. Patrick Paul, now he was a second round draft pick, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's not going to get a fifth-year option. That's no. So he's not going to get a fifth. I mean, I think he's played well enough in the first 2 seasons that as long as he again steps it up again, I think that he had a habit last year of occasionally near the end of games, like he would just switch off for a play. He didn't let a lot of sacks through, but a few times he just seemed to be completely kind of frozen. He just seemed to get beaten instantly. But if he steps it up again, I would certainly hope he is the exact type of player that you want to be re-signing. And again, making one of these pillars of the team.
I don't know whether either of or any of you watched it or listened to it, but he was on Teron Armstrong's podcast.
That's a really good podcast, by the way, guys. If anybody's listening or watching and hasn't I think it's called The Set.
That's right,
Teron Podcast.
He's had Aaron Brewer on as well, but he had Patrick.
Aaron Brewer, and he's had Devon A. Chain on, and he's had, I don't know if he's even had Jordan Brooks on. I think he's had on, and a couple of others. And obviously Patrick Paul was on. That was really good. I was really impressed with Patrick Paul actually, in the way that he spoke and how his
attitude.
His attitude. And
where are you going? What have you been on holiday? You've been away? No, I've been training. I've not left Florida because I want to keep me condition. I want to keep me acclimatization to the heat and stuff like that. It's just been me and some of the other O-line have been hitting the weights all through the off season. We've been keeping ourselves ready, and he gives me that. You were saying about culture before and how some of them
vibes.
He's the type of player, assuming that he performs and he eradicates, as Nick said, some of those plays where he just seems to switch off or gets distracted for a minute. He's not quite on the ball. He is the type of player that sets the tone. He's a future leader. He's a future captain. The type of player that you want to keep on your team. And I do think that they won't mess about at the end of the season, assuming he has a decent season and he's not injured or whatever. The end of the season is, they may even already be sort of half discussing it now. But I'm basing that on one podcast that he's had a chat with the player who he essentially learnt off, who was in the starter in front of him in his rookie season. But he just sounds like the type of guy that you want in the locker room, that will build you up, but won't take any messing around either.
Yeah, I thought the interesting thing about what they were said, and again, I urge anyone to go and sort of listen to it, was there was quite a bit of talk, and again, I know we're banging on about culture quite a bit today, but when Teron Armstead was talking to him, and he was talking about, obviously that would have been the 2023 season as things started to move into 2024, and then the difficulties that obviously kind of appear to have come from that season. So sorry, he would have been there in 2024. That he said a couple of things about stuff that had gone off with Patrick Paul and with things he perhaps didn't do or he didn't realise. And he said he very quickly picked up on what not to do and that the things he was doing weren't right, and that, Teron Armstead kind of came across as kind of a bit like a big brother sort of figure to him. He said, this isn't really right. And he said, you took all of that on immediately, brought it into your game, and now you're the one who's doing that with the other players in the team and saying, and it was like he clearly came in with kind of I don't know, maybe a college boy attitude, if you like, of coming in and, being Joe, which wouldn't be a surprise with what we're hearing about the whole atmosphere of the club at that time. And he kind of took it to one side and, he kind of immediately realised, which again is nice to hear, because you kind of think, okay, that is somebody that's kind of took that and he's gone, yeah, okay, I need to buckle down, I need to be serious, I need to, focus on my game and progress. And that's, and it sounds like, he openly kind of admitted some of the things that he'd done, without saying what they were, but he kind of admitted there was this thing, that thing, and the other thing. And they said, but that's done with now, and I've moved on from that, and like I can put all that behind me, and we can move on, and that's the way that it's got to be, and that's the mindset that everybody needs to have now. And I think he even said that he felt with the rookies coming in that there was a shift change, didn't he? And that he feels they're going to surprise some people this year because the mindset is different, is totally different.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it too. Like, when you talk about leadership and various other things, he'll be basically leading Proctor and teaching Proctor this season in his first season, like, you know what I mean? And if Proctor pans out as well as people expect, and Paul is there with him, it's another easy decision for Paul to make if his, contract comes up saying, look, I've worked with this guy, I can see where it's going, like, you know what I mean? And that's the way I see it, like, but yeah, like, there's a lot of things still to happen as training camp begins, like, Do
you think the lack of, I don't know whether this is just me and I've just missed it, but considering the absolute outrage and outcry when they draft Proctor, and not heard anything further, really. You'd thought if this was such the wrong type of player to draft, they'd be looking for any sort of lack to pick up on.
Well, I've been waiting for the
things.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this is his weight when he's come back to training camp.
Yeah.
This is what he is. Nobody's even mentioned what his weight is. Now, I'm presuming that's because it's a non-issue and he's come back perfectly fine, which I think, by all accounts, anybody who read up on the reason why he had those weight issues would have realized that it was just something that was a young guy issue of kind of not really realizing he got to look after himself, then knowing, oh, actually, yeah, I do need to look after myself. And he himself said that, I know I need to do that now, so I'll do it. I didn't realize before, so it didn't really matter. And now I do realize, so I won't do it. And, that was what he said. And obviously, to all intents and purposes, as far as I can tell, there hasn't been any issues with that, which I guess we'll get the reports when the press are there, obviously tomorrow for the training camps and everything else like that, and they'll still be obviously saying, I'm sure they'll be on Proctor Weight Watch to see whether he's.
It's almost like they've not been able to find anything to have a go at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, he'll go against, he'll be measured against what they passed on. Like, he'll be measured against Caleb Downs in Dallas. He'll be measured against Ruben Baines. You know what I mean? He'll be measured against all those and anything else. And if he does his job the way a tackle is, or where he's playing guard, even if he plays well in guard, like, and the other two, are there, that's what he'd be measured against. That's what the front office will be measured against, like,
Well, I know the weight for mandatory mini camp was fine because I think it was 1 pound heavier than he weighed in at the combine. And they often say that the combine is about as fit as a college player will ever be, because of course they train for the combine and they train for those events that they do at the combine. So so far, as you said, probably this is where we're going to find it out soon enough if he's 20, 30, 40 pounds heavier than he was than we drafted him. We'll find that out tomorrow on Wednesday, because the press, it will be one of the big things about that they'll be looking at, as you said, Weight Watch, and because he is a massive human being.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of see what's going to kind of come out over the next few days, and kind of where people are doing things, and kind of sorry, my brain's not quite with it today. The thing that they all say, when the pads come on, and obviously the pads are coming on. So let's see. So let's move into training camp preview anyway. Then we might as well, it leads in quite nicely. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing, let's say, the infamous when the pads come on. But I think there's so many questions, as we've obviously been saying, around certain people. Caleb Douglas obviously is one I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how he's going to do. And I think for me as well, like an interesting one for me, whether there's going to be a progression, is the running back battle behind Achane. I was a big fan of Ollie Gordon's last year. I thought sort of coming into last year with his college tape and everything, I thought he looked like he was going to be really good, and he did have a bit of success in some of the short yardage situations and everything. But I think he's got the attributes. I've been disappointed with Jalen Wright. I again, a couple of years ago when we drafted him, I was kind of excited. I thought we were going to get a bit more than what we've had out of him. So I'm going to be interested to see kind of what happens with those two, or whether there's one of the other Donovan Edwards, isn't it, kind of sneaks in, or anything else like that. So I think that's going to be intriguing. Cornerbacks, I'm very intrigued to see kind of where we're going to go with that. I think we've got 14 cornerbacks. I think we've got 12, 13, 14 cornerbacks, who's, so throw it on one of them and see who we're going to play today. But Juju Brents is, I think he's going to be the one, and see if he can stay fit, whether he can progress. I like the look of him. So Dante Trader at safety, and names that we've got. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, Storm Duck's still on pup, but Major Burns, of course, the new safety that they got from the UFL, which is the incredibly named Major Burns. That's quite a good one. I think that'll be it'd just be hilarious just to have him playing, I think. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing how he does. Because by all accounts in the UFL he was amazing. So, and then sort of you look at the sort of linebacker / safety guys like Kyle Lewis and and those sorts of players. And then the linebacker edge people like Trey Moore, obviously our very own Wayne's Trey Moore, and people like that. There's going to be so much to see. I think that. I'm going to be kind of eagerly anticipating and sort of hanging on all the news articles and waiting for all of the different guys to kind of come out with what's happening, so we can kind of keep in touch with that. So I'm excited.
I mean, what I'd really like to see as well is, obviously I want to see a lot of these rookies play. I want to see a lot of these undrafted free agents play. I also want to see a lot of churn on the bottom end of the roster. I really think we need to go looking for those diamonds in the rough as well that are being waived by other teams. I think we can all admit that we're a talent shy roster. Let's see
proven talent shy roster, I would say.
Yes,
a proven
yes,
talent roster.
yes,
A potential talent.
As you said, right, very, very much early on, there's a lot of people that we've picked up who are first round and second round draft picks. So they obviously have potential, or had potential. It's, can we get it out of them? As you just mentioned there, the injury prone cornerback Brent. If we can see 3 straight games from him this season, that would be lovely, because he looked great for 1.5 games last season. If we can double that output at some point, for 3 straight games, I'd love that, because he looked tremendous. That's going to make because I think there are certain positions, cornerback, safety, probably edge, where we
definitely edge.
Don't really have, I don't think, starter. Like, we don't have a set, or I don't imagine we have a set starting lineup at the moment.
Not defense.
No.
The
only sort of edge I've got in my sort of list that's definitely in the 53 is Chuck Robinson, and then after that he's sort of nailed on. But after that, as you say, even in my sort of next 2 sort of groupings, there's not that much there.
No,
not because they're not talented or not good enough, just that we don't know. I mean, I've got Cameron Good. He's another one that I think needs to be watched, because he could be so good. He could be. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to have that put on words, but he could be such a difference. I think he could be such a difference maker, but he can't seem to stay on the pitch.
Yeah,
can't.
I mean, the one that I heard not a rumor. It was an idea of possibly moving Zach Sealer outside, and whilst I'm not 100% against it, I'm certainly not 100% for it either. My worry with that is who's going to stop the run. Like, if we just let teams run on us, it doesn't matter who we've got on it out on the edge. Like the game's already lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think there's a lot of like tight end as well is another one where Dulcich looked great in the half a season that he played, but do we really know what he is?
Traore's going to be the guy.
Traore's
going to be the guy.
We're all hoping for that, aren't we?
My glass is half full. Traore's going to be the guy.
We're all hoping. I even asked Alan Poupar on his
All Dolphins podcast.
All Dolphins podcast. I even asked him the other night because I was up with being poorly. I was kind of couldn't sleep and everything, so I was listening to it live, and I obviously posted on the comments and said what were his thoughts on Traore, and he kind of said, having seen him in the practice squad, he says that there could be something there. Obviously you're gonna have to see how he does in sort of the proper sort of preseason, but obviously he's got a bit of an advantage being on with the international player pathway exemption. He said the thing is they'll need to make a decision with him because he's fairly confident that if they don't put him on the 53, he won't clear waivers for the Dolphins to re-sign. He will definitely go somewhere, which indicates that obviously he thinks he's clearly got something about him. So you would hope that that progresses, and if they keep, I know they've got Ben Sims, I say Dulcich, Ben Sims, Kaczmarek. But you could carry 4 tight ends.
I mean, Kaczmarek, again, from all reports, great hands, just slow. Like, will he be able to get any separation?
But I think Kaczmarek is your blocking. He's going to be your Fasano type. He's going to be a Fasano type blocker, Durham Smythe, or whichever way you go, But I would still like him to
Julian Hill. Julian Hill is the new Julian Hill.
with less penalties.
As Nick said, he's probably not as quick as Julian Hill, what I mean?
Of course, he's out for the season, isn't he? He
got injured in Patriots, and he was training, or not even training camp. He got some injury anyway. He's Pew season, did his knee. Yeah, I'm looking at a couple of. There's a few there's 2 players I want to ball out at training camp. One you mentioned, Mark Caleb Douglas. He needs to basically prove that he's worth a 3rd round choice ahead of some receivers that were still there at the time, But I heard recently that he's been working out with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and ESPN ranked him as the 10th wide receiver with the potential biggest impact in 2026. Really? So that's great to see. But I need to see it on the training camp.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to train with 2 people, one a fast route running deep threat in Chase, but also T. Higgins, who's a physical thing, which really Caleb Douglas has got the physical attributes to be both of those sort of in one,
And the other player that needs to ball out is Chop Robinson. I mentioned a couple of Chop needs to show it, and Chop needs basically you're talking about, as you mentioned, Nick, the run. If we can't stop the run. And it's not just about run stuffing up the center; it's stopping it at the edge at various other things. I know they've been focusing on that with Chop Robinson, and it seems, but again, on the other side, Chop can't cover 2 sides at once. If I was looking at watching players potentially, all right, you have Uche, you have Ojabo, but say the Max Llewellyn, the 7th round, and I'm very interested in Mason Riger, the UDFA from Wisconsin. He seems should have been drafted, but he had an injury not last year, but the year before that seemed to have impacted. And then say players to watch, most of the players we mentioned already. Juju Brent is a player I want to see. Kyle Lewis is another player I want to see. How they're going to play him in training camp. Is he going to be a safety? Is he going to be a linebacker? Is he going to be a hybrid? Is he going, these types of things? And also will Kazmarek, not just for the blocking. I want to see will he be able to have an impact on the passing game as well? These sort of players I'd be looking out for.
I do kind of wonder with some of the players and whether this is a deliberate thing that Hafley and Sullivan have done. You in the draft and with the UDFAs and everything else like that, they've taken a lot of players, and even some of the free agents, they've taken a lot of players that can play multiple positions. Mm-hmm. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he an edge? Is he a linebacker?
Yeah.
And I do wonder if that's been done deliberately to, we know Hafley's obviously a defensive-minded coach. I wonder whether part of me wonders whether that's been a deliberate ploy, because he's got some, deliberate plays where, Lewis has been, say, for example, been lining up as a linebacker all game, that he lines up, you think he's going to be a linebacker, actually he's in the safety position, and up he pops with an interception because he's playing somewhere totally different to where they were expecting him to play. I do wonder if there's an element of, this sort of versatility is going to come into the play calling of confusion for the opposition. So they're always going to be sort of guessing, where these, is he lining up as a linebacker, but actually he's going to go into coverage, or he's going to, sort of sit in the box, or whether he's going to, whether it's an edge rusher who's doing that, or whether he's dropping it, and those sorts of things. Yeah. And just think, hang on a minute, why is he there? He's been, I say, Trey Moore, for example, he's been playing edge all game, and all of a sudden he's sat in the middle next to Jordan Brooks. What's going off here, which, I think if perhaps we are a little bit talent deficient in terms of, sort of what's actually on the field in terms of learning and development and those sorts of things, maybe, and obviously they called McDaniel a bit of a sort of an evil genius when it came to the offensive sort of plays, but I'm wondering if Hafley's going to perhaps have a few tricks up his sleeve in terms of disguising coverages and those sorts of things with the personnel that he's got, and that's why those players have been drafted, not necessarily because of their excellence in one position or because of their ability to play one position, but actually because they're a good player in multiple positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. There's another aspect as well that I'm looking forward to seeing is the fact that Austin Clark is working with the full defensive line this season, edges and linemen and tackles. And getting that group together to work together is very important. You know what I mean? It's be interesting to see how they operate in that regards, coaching wise and stuff like that. Bringing the edges, bringing the tackles, bringing the nose tackles. And I'm looking forward to see Jordan Phillips. Like Nick mentioned, if you move Zach Sealer out, who's going to be a run stuffer? There's a lot of talk that Jordan Phillips is going to be that zero tackle run stuffer.
Do you think Kenneth Grant could step up and take more of a role as well, though? Because he could. I mean, was it when he was in college? Was it Michigan where he chased down the running back?
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah.
I mean, I know he wasn't the fast, but that's another player. If he steps up his game, he steps into the breach. All of a sudden, it'll help all across the defensive line. Yeah. Surely,
there's a lot of second-year players that can potentially, if they step up, it could be a positive. You mentioned Phillips, you mentioned Grant. There's also Zeke Biggers. Do you know what I mean? All these second-year players that are getting bigger, getting better, it builds the pieces that we'll have for a couple of years for extensions and stuff like that. But that's what I'm looking forward to. You know what I mean? Plenty to look forward to over the next couple of weeks.
Build up a proper team ethic.
Yeah. I mean, it'll help if obviously the players pay attention in the meetings this time around. Time around. And,
don't walk out halfway
on their mobile phones, or they're actually all sat in there together paying attention. And I'm sure the offense and the defense will actually give a crap about each other, which obviously was said that there was one of the other things that they said that they just didn't care. So I'm sure they will. I've got every confidence in that. So Right, guys. Well, we've been banging on for over an hour now for everybody to listen to. So, thank you very much for your time this evening. Excuse me again. Thank you very much for your time. It's been lovely talking to you, and obviously kind of catching up and everything. So, this is going to be hopefully as we start to lead into pre-season, we'll look at getting these hopefully back to sort of, if not weekly, at least, sort of one every week and a half or 2 weeks or so. And then obviously we'll be getting into weekly for the season. So I'm sure you will be back joining me before too long. So that'll be good. So thank you again for all your time. We'll hopefully see you soon. And obviously I know that we'll have a very interesting week watching not the airwaves now, is it? So showing my age there, watching the tinterwebs for the updates on how things are going. So we'll the next time we'll have a bit of a chat about how it's all going, and probably a bit of a look towards the preseason games maybe. Oh, one final thing I did want to say, which I just wanted to mention. Do you guys think the joint practices that obviously they've lined up this year, where Hafley said they've only decided to do a day because when you do 2 days, the second day, the team that got bullied the first day normally gets retribution. Do you think that means that he's looking to go in there on those joint practices and set the standard each day and be like, we're going to be the ones who are going to, kick the crap out of the other guys, and then we're just gonna go. I wondered if my hope was that he was going to be we're going to be the hard team for a change. Who's going to come in, bully the other team, and then not give them a chance to have a go back.
I don't know. Like I would have agreed with that if they didn't want to have the practice game with Atlanta. Because if you have Tua coming in doing what Tua does during practice, which is accuracy, the whole lot, and showing that.
Could you imagine the fan base's reaction if they'd have had a practice with Atlanta and Tua just tortured the secondary? Because we all know he could do it in practice. If he did that, it would just set the season off on such a downer right away. I can see why they didn't do that. Definitely,
he would have been wearing the red shirt. You wouldn't have been able to hit him. Let's be honest. The one thing we know he could do was put it on a dime when the pressure wasn't on. Yeah. I mean, that would have been a perfect game for him. Oh well, not a game because obviously it wasn't. But that would have been a perfect practice session for him.
I get the idea of it being. I don't want to have a second practice because basically ends up being a bit of a free-for-all where someone's just trying to get their own back. But flip side is could be setting the standard and saying, listen, you get one shot at this.
Exactly, one shot at each game, you know what I mean? So if you're not...
Was it Brooks and Dobson who got into a fist fight last year? Yeah.
That was against the Lions, wasn't it? Or was the Lions last year when they said it's the worst? Some of the commentators, the worst one slated.
Yeah, one of them helped one of the opposition up.
The
Lions up, and he said, "What are you doing? Have you seen what they're doing over there? Don't you do that?" So it kicked off.
I have a feeling we know now it was Brooks saying it to
all season.
But that's so. Yeah, so exciting times ahead for us to look at. So sorry for diving there, guys. I will let you get off to your evenings, but thank you everybody, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Cool.
Thank you, Mark. Take care, mate. Take care, Rob.
We got this.
Good night, guys.
We got this.
Good luck. Good.